Okay, let's take a look at the Daas Tevunos. We're on page Samach Tes in the Friedlander version. If you're using the paragraph version, we're in paragraph page 80. We're at the bottom of the page on 69 in Friedlander's version. We talked about the guf. The guf is made of component parts, and that's because it's physical. Anything in the physical world is measured by a number system. We talked about that yesterday. Friedlander explained it. That which is in the spiritual realm, we don't measure. It is a question of eichus. It's a question of quality, not quantity. And in shleimus, there's only one shleimus. There's only one thing that's perfect. When we talk about God, which we don't understand at all, the perfect, objectively perfect, whatever. Perfection means, as we learned yesterday, not a little more, not a little less. It's absolutely perfect. That's something that on a human level we can't understand. That's the Ribbono Shel Olam. But on a human level, we have this ability to become perfect again on the human level. And that is one concept. There's not different component parts to perfection. Perfection is perfection. It's absolutely perfect thing from all angles, from all directions, from all views. It is just a perfect thing. The body has to be looked at as the eyes are good, the ears are not so good, chas v'sholom, the fingers are this and the toes are this. We have different definitions and different characteristic traits and different ways to describe different parts of a component system. The neshama is one unified entity. It's a chelek elokimi mal, and like as we said, God sees. Where does he see from? The eyes? Does he see from the top of himself, from the bottom of himself, from the left side, from the right side? All shtuyot questions, because God doesn't see through a body. God just sees. And the neshama is the same way. The neshama doesn't see through any particular part. Before the neshama comes into the guf, the neshama sees, the neshama hears. When the neshama comes into the guf, there's a tzimtzum, and now the neshama can only see through the eyeballs. The Ramchal says, I already explained to you that the concept of shleimus is a unified concept. It doesn't come into different parts. The point of the neshama and shleimus is to rule over the guf and all the component parts to perfect that perfectly imperfect set of component parts. Rav Friedlander's footnote 165, Eina mischalik lahanhaga shoynes. The hanhagas hashleimus, so the hanhagas hayichud, doesn't have different characteristic traits. Perfection is perfection. Ha'oras ponim is ha'oras ponim. Hastaras ponim of the guf goes in all different directions. There's a left side, there's a right side, there are eyeballs, there are ears. It goes in different directions. The neshama doesn't go in different directions. In one unified way, the neshama perfects everything and every person that needs shleimus if the guf and the neshama cooperating. You see, as I explained to you, the kavana, the intention of all this process is that a person should be magbir. He should empower his neshama over his guf, and in that way the neshama will purify the guf as much as it can. We know already that the neshama, no matter what neshama it is, it can only get to a certain level in this lifetime because the guf is infected with the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. And in order for the guf to get over Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, there's no vaccination for it. The only thing that can happen to the guf is it goes into the ground, it decomposes, and it releases the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. And now a new guf without the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra comes to Tchias HaMesim. The rejuvenated neshama from Gan Eden goes into the guf, and then if they're Zeicha, they go into Olam Haba. Bottom of page 69, the purpose of all this, to empower the neshama over the guf and to purify the guf. This is what we talked about in the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva. There are two sides that to life, and Tkiyah Sheif is supposed to remind us. There's the Rambam said, Elu ha-sheikhin es ha-emes b'havlei hazman. People forget the eternal truth for which they can live, and they forget this because they overindulge in the silliness of time. Havlei zman. The emes is the neshama, the oros ponim, it's eternal, and people forget the neshama and the cause, the reason for the neshama and why it's here, b'havlei hazman, in the silliness of the times in which the body wants to engage. And then you bring down on yourself the bed you make, you will sleep in. If the guf is magbir, the guf is empowered, that's what the Rebbe Shalom sends down, some more guf and some more hastoras panim chas v'shalom. But if you are magbir, your neshama over the guf, the Rebbe Shalom sends you shleimus. L'sakin kol ma'uvas ha'chisar asher ba'olam ha'karashi ba'anu el. V'haguf muchen l'poronus eis asher sholat ba'odam kichein yastra kadosh baruch hu pnei shleimusai v'yishar ha'odam ha'olam v'odam tachas dasei ha'galgal ha'mashaper b'chol misiboisav gedin kol b'nei cholov she'azmana mishtana lem b'chol pina shu paina. The guf was created through a hastaras panim, and because it was created for hastaras panim, it is ready and it's just open for all kinds of problems to occur to the guf. La'aleinu, every aver in the guf, the system is an absolute miracle. Ramchal is going to talk about it later. At any moment, the Rabbona Shalom, I'm skipping a little, but the Ramchal tells us a person has a heart attack, la'aleinu. So people say, why did God send him a heart attack? God doesn't send anyone a heart attack. Why did God send him this sickness? God doesn't send anyone any sickness. These things don't come from God. It's the reverse. We have to think about the default position. What is the default position here? The Rebbeinu Shalom is constantly performing a miracle so that the eyes work, the ears work, the heart pumps, the lungs breathe. It's a constant miracle. That's the default position. We're living a miracle every second. The Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't have to send someone a heart attack, chas v'shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom just says, the miracle of the heart, I'm stopping the miracle. If you stop the miracles, things are going to happen. The Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't have to actively and affirmatively send anyone a heart attack. The idea behind that is that I'm naturally healthy. I don't need God to keep me healthy. I'm in a natural state of health. My heart works because of the rules of nature. Biology tells me how my heart works. My lungs work because the lungs work. That's just the way it is. And God comes along and stops my lungs, chas v'sholem. That's not how the world works. There is no such thing as lungs work naturally until God stops it, or the heart works naturally until God stops it. God doesn't stop anything. The thing doesn't start to work unless God performs a miracle. At some point, because of a person's conduct, the Baruch Shalom says, you're not worthy of this miracle anymore, and therefore there's no miracle. So if there's no miracle, that's the end. God doesn't have to send anything bad. He just decides that you're not worthy of the miracle any longer. So the body, the Ramchal says, is a muchen leperonis. There are so many different component parts to the body. And there are so many different systems that work to make sure everything interacts with each other. The kidney, the liver, the heart, the lungs, the blood, the nervous system, the spine, the brain. Each of them is interconnected with each other. And in such a complicated system, we understand that at any given second, something can break down. It's a muchen lepiranus. So all of this, the idea that the body is ready to break down at any second, except for God's miracle, is a sign that there's a hastaras panim here. God created something that literally can break down any second. How did that happen? Through hastaras panim. The neshama doesn't break down any second. The neshama is nitzvius. Alkein yesh beguf kol ma shroi limotze beseder agalgal achayzer ba'olam besalim shlemus hatoiv kidei la'or lobes kol eila im achlo hamlucha ba'odam asher yim shobol. So if a man decides or a woman decides that the guf is going to run his life, he's Mr. Guf or Mrs. Guf, Mr. and Mrs. Guf need to understand that you've now pushed a button and you're going to have a life of guf. But you need to remember that guf has a lot of component parts, and you need a lot of miracles from God to keep those component parts working. And you have just pushed a very dangerous button. When you live guf, you push a button of hester panim. You don't want to push a button of hester panim because the guf constantly needs the miracles of Hashem to keep it going. If you push guf instead of neshama, you're going to get hester panim. Hester panim means you may not be zeicha to so many miracles. And there comes the breakdown of the component part system. V'yesh ben hashama mashroi l'shleimus lahashlam kol chisorin k'dei l'orlov k'yotze b'ay im yizke odem es orchoi v'noson kesa malchus b'roisha. It's a poetic way. The Ramchal is using a pasuk from Megillas Esther. V'noson kesa malchus b'roisha. And on Rosh Hashanah we say v'yitin l'chor kesa malucha. If a person's ready to take a crown and put it on his neshama and crown his neshama king of his life, he pushes the neshama button. He now has entered the area where Hashem is going to send him more light, more ha'oras panim. More ha'oras panim is going to result in more shleimus and more perfection. And then the neshama, based upon its understanding of life, is going to be able to run the life in an understanding way. We're going to stop here for the Daas Tevunos. We're going to see today in a minute or two, we're going to see this week's parsha about Hastaras Panim. And Hastaras Panim and Ha'oras Panim for us is going to mean, and we've mentioned this before, Ha'oras Panim means that God sends you more light. People don't like to be in a dark room, except if they're, in the olden days, you wanted a dark room if you had film and you wanted to be able to take the film and make the pictures. You wanted to develop the pictures, you needed a dark room. Otherwise, people don't like darkness. Darkness is dreary, darkness is depressing, darkness is scary, darkness is confusing. If you're in a dark room, you don't know where you're going, you can walk, you'll trip over something, you'll hurt yourself, you may bang yourself into a wall. Darkness is a place where we feel that we're insecure because we don't know what's around us. We don't know what step we can take. Should we go forward, backwards? Where's the door? We're very insecure in darkness because we're in a state of confusion. We don't have the information we need when we're in a state of darkness. Ha'aras panim from the Rebbeinu Shalom is the Rebbeinu Shalom keeps on giving you a little more light, and he lights up that dark room, and you begin to get a better understanding of life and a better understanding of the decisions you need to make. You have a whole different view that other people may not have. So the more a person brings Hastaras Panim into his life, Aveira Goreres Aveira, you're in a room of light, and every time, we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, every time a person does an Aveira, he closes the tris a little more. And another Aveira, he closes the tris until that window's completely closed. Now there's a second window in the room that's still giving light. A person does Averis, close the tris. Until Loyaleno, he's now in the complete dark room. He has no light, and he's in darkness. The Ramchal in the Mesilas Yesharim says that there are two types of people that are in the dark. There's the person that's in the dark, and he knows he's in the dark. So he's not that bad off because he won't walk around and fall and hurt himself because he recognizes he's in the dark. The second type of darkness the Ramchal talks about Mesilas Yesharim is a person who's really in the dark, He has no appreciation for the dangers of darkness, and he keeps on prodding around the room until he falls over something and breaks his hand or breaks his leg. Besides an Avera bringing darkness, confusion, lack of understanding, lack of proper decision making into your life, there can even be a process by which you're in such darkness, you don't even realize you're in darkness, and you're doing stupid things and don't even realize they're stupid. You actually think they're okay. These are the smartest things to do, and they're actually the darkest, stupidest things to do, but you're in such darkness that you don't even know you're in darkness. The darkness itself is covered up from you. So ha'oras panim means that you've done something and you're opening the tris and more light's coming in and you can see things clearly. You see things in a way that other people can't see them. Hastaras panim is choshech. God is going to close the light and you're not going to be able to see things clearly and you're going to fall over yourself. So that's the concept that we'll see in a moment in the Parsha, ha'oras panim, hastaras panim. So the more guf, the more self-indulging, the more you close the tris on your life, the more you practice the Torah and the mitzvahs. We're talking about getting married. We're not Catholics. We get married, al pi Torah. We have children, al pi Torah. We eat sudas. We have good food, al pi Torah, etc. That is bringing ha'oras panim into a person's life.